Ah, so I heard you wanted to create a subclass. Well, then I think you've found just the video. Because in this video, I'm going to walk you through a simple 4-step framework with questions and things you can answer and stuff like that on how to create a subclass. And just basically what I did is that I went and watched a video by Dungeon Dudes. I'll of course link to it in the description if you want to watch it. And I basically condensed all the tips that they have into these frameworks of what you need to do first, then what you need to do, then what you need to do, and what different questions you need to answer to make the subclass. And that's basically what we're gonna do in this video. If you want to support my channel and what I do and hear more from me, I would be extremely grateful if you could leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and even join either my Discord or my Patreon, or both if you want. On my Discord, I want to build a community, an active community where people talk about D&D and play D&D and stuff like that. And on my Patreon, you can find my homebrew stuff, and you can also find a way to support me directly by getting a membership. And I would be extremely grateful for anyone who wants to buy a membership. As of now, there are no benefits, but I would be extremely grateful for the support. Step 1 of 4, the idea. So now it's finally become time to take the homebrew hat on. And as you can see here, these are some of the ideas that I got for a subclass to create, and I ended up going with the inside domain cleric, which the fantasy of this cleric would be basically being a seer and being able to see the future and see the present and see the past. Patrons of this cleric could, for example, be gods like Odin, who is known for seeing the past, the present, and the future. So then, as the next question that I want you to answer when creating your subclass, what fictional characters perfectly represent the subclass? So for me, the inside cleric would definitely be characters like the Oracle of Delphi, and that would be a perfect example of an inside cleric. But if you're creating, for example, a character that uses giant weaponry, I can't really remember any characters, but probably some character from an anime who uses a giant sword would be a good representation of your subclass. So just to get an idea of what your subclass looks like, then put some fictional characters in there. The Dungeon Dudes also recommend writing point form notes, basically suggesting what abilities the subclass might have, but I didn't do that personally. And now we're just going to go over to the next step, which is designing the subclass. As one of the most important things that the Dungeon Dudes came up with was that the mechanics of the class play into the fantasy of the subclass. So you want, if your fantasy is to wield giant weaponry, then you want your subclass to be able to do that, to represent that in the mechanics. And that could be things like, when you have 2 swords, you get to attack twice instead of once, or you only get to attack once when you use a 2-handed weapon. And then also make sure that the different features complement each other, so that you don't have multiple things that grant bonus action abilities or multiple things that they can use their actions on. Because if the whole class is basically 5 different things that you can use your action on, the player has way too many options, which is actually bad, because you want, for example, if you have an action feature, then you also want a bonus action feature or a reaction feature. Then of course, make sure that it reflects the law if it's made for a specific setting. And also make sure to use the templates there are for each class. So for example, for cleric that I created, all the clerics gain a divine strike at level 8 I mean. And all the clerics get a channel divinity at level 2. So now I already know that I need to create a channel divinity feature and a divine strike feature. And look at all the different levels that they gain subclass features in each class, and basically make features for each of those levels. Also make sure that your subclass touches on both roleplay, exploration and combat, because all of these things are very important for the game. Because if your character has nothing in one for example, they don't get so many other things. So it's good to have blah, blah. Things like spells or using existing mechanics can also lighten the burden of creating a subclass. For example, for me, because each cleric gets a specific spell list, for me that helped me a lot, because that really helped me flavor the class without having to write very many different features, because they already were in the spell list. Then also, especially if the subclass is a martial subclass, make sure that it also touches on both combat, exploration and roleplay, because many martial characters rely on the subclasses to give them features to use in roleplay and exploration. So make sure that your subclass includes all of these different features. Then gaining inspiration from both the internet, looking at other classes and looking at what they get, and using ChatGPT to inspire you. Oh yeah, and also it's okay to give your subclass multiple features in each level, but just make sure that the extra features are ribbon features. And ribbon features is a concept made by the Dungeon Dudes, where basically the feature is like the ribbon on a present. It's supposed to make it pretty, or to make you feel the fantasy of being a gunslinger or something the like. So the ribbon feature is basically a feature that only can be used in very specific circumstances, but helps play into the fantasy of the subclass. And if you're making this homebrew because you want to publish it, I really recommend using the homebrewery. I'm going to leave a link in the description and leave a link in the description on how to use this app, because at first I had a bit of a hard time, and I still have. I don't really know how to put in images yet. But if you really want cool D&D homebrew, like pages of parchment, then check it out. And here's just a quick little insight to how I use these ticks and trips. So I answered the question of what is the fantasy, what fictional characters would be a perfect example for this subclass, and then I came up with a few ideas on what abilities I could give this class. Then I used the template for the cleric, so they get a first level feature, second level feature, 6th level feature, 8th level and 17th, and they get a spellcasting table for each subclass. Then I filled it out with things that really make you feel like an oracle. Then after this, I contrasted it a bit with some other classes, looked at what other classes and subclasses got, and of course I haven't gotten around to playtesting it yet, but yeah, I've been using these things. if you want to get access to this subclass without me scrolling up and down, so that you can get a proper look at it and see what you think about it, then join the Patreon. Now we've gotten to the third part of the video. And as a balance, I haven't been doing any of that for my own subclass because I haven't gotten around to play with it at a table. But the advice that I can give you is that you should balance it once for lower levels, look at how it is in comparison to the other characters, and then also try and play test it in a higher level. Then also share it with others or in the D&D community, could also help a lot. And also remembering to contrast with what other classes gets at what levels. So for example, if your character gets maybe a way to give other people in vulnerability to different damage types. No other class has that, so that would probably be a pretty high level feature. As promised, there is a secret fourth thing that you need to create a subclass. And that is to have fun. With all these tips and tricks that I've armed you with, I hope that you will go out there and create your fantastical subclasses and maybe even share them with the D&D community. If you want to get all this whole framework with questions and all these things, you can join the Patreon or the Discord and you'll find it in there. Thank you so much for watching.